All right, Serious and Salinas Outcast. Today we have Neal Damiano, who was a writer for reality TV magazine during the peak of reality TV in what, the early 2000s, I would say?
2005.
To around 2005. Okay. And what had happened is you saw my interview of Tommy Perno, or aka Tommy Cheeseballs, and that was before Jersey Shore. What was the name of the actual show on MTV that he did?
It was True Life.
Right, it was True Life.
I own a share house, something like that. To the fact I rent a share house on the Jersey Shore.
Yeah, it was actually right. It was True Life. It was the name of the show, and that particular episode was like the highest rated episode. There were some great episodes too. I remember that.
I actually liked the True Life series. It was the closest thing to documentary style as you could get on MTV. So it was a good series.
So what had happened is you made a comment under one of the videos, and Tommy was actually in the interview. Tommy had told me about how they basically manipulate the show to seem as if what is real, but it's some manipulation. There is some editing. There is some corruption, if you will, for lack of a better term. And you had agreed. So I messaged you to come on and talk about it because for a very long time, there was nothing but reality TV on television. It was unbelievable.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, that was the heyday of, like I talk to people about reality TV once in a blue moon. And what had happened was in that time period, what the show creators had figured out is that, hey, we could get people that, really want to be on TV. Mostly everybody wants to be on TV until they find out what it's really like, what they do, because they have no idea. So, everybody wants to be, you're young, you want to be famous, you want to be on TV. It's enticing. And so they figured we could get outlandish, really bold, aggressive attitude type people to be on these shows. And then we don't have to pay actors. So we save a lot of money. And basically they run into what we call as creative story editing. And that's where the manipulation comes in. And
before we get started, why don't you give us a backstory about how you got involved and how you became a writer for reality TV magazine?
Well, I'd always wanted to be in the entertainment industry, but not so much in front of the camera. I did a lot of writing, and I've always been into film. That'll come later on. So I guess my foot in the door, I figured, is I could probably get into reality TV a lot easier than getting into film. Now it's pretty open to getting into film, the film industry, but back then it was a lot harder. So reality TV was something that was a lot easier to get involved with. And I was a fan of The Real World because I was in high school when the first season aired in 1992 in New York. And I really thought it was a groundbreaking, fascinating idea and concept in television because it had never really been done before, except for the Loud family in the 70s where they documented that family. But that was more a documentary.
I remember that. Yes.
Yeah. And then from then it was like there was nothing like that on TV. And when The Real World came out, is basically, from what I read, the producers wanted to make kind of a Beverly Hills 90210 because that show was popular at the time, and mix that with a soap opera and get real people, and that's what they did basically. And I can honestly say that first season, that probably about the first 4 seasons, were really they really just filmed these kids and let them live their life. They didn't have to see. What happens is that I'm going to jump around here, John, because there's so much.
I understand.
What happens is when they did, especially The Real World, is what they did is why it caused dramas, because it's what's called pushed contrived situations, whereas they put these 7 people in a pressure cooker environment and they force them to interact with each other. There's no outside outlets. There's no, like, if you have an argument with your roommate, you can go in your room and you can listen to your music and kind of brush it off. You could go out. Not with, they sign contracts where they can't go anywhere unless they're followed. So, yeah, so they're forced to confront each other, and that's what causes the drama. And basically, that's how those shows work. And, you're a kid in your 20s and you're getting pushed a free rent and a beautiful house with jacuzzis and, booze whenever you want. And, yeah, it sounds great, but they don't tell you that the constriction that you're under while you're there, and all these things that you have to oblige to. And I mean, it's insane. It's really almost not worth it. But you're going to be on TV, you're going to be famous, and that's what the allure. That's how they get these people. And no offense to Tommy, I never met him, but that's probably kind of what happened with him. Is that, and I don't blame him. He even explained they came up to him, they saw him,
Yeah.
and they offered all this stuff. And yeah, I mean, what kid in his early 20s is gonna say no to that?
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, and that's how they get you. And they usually prey on people that are, craving the limelight. And I could get into a story. The last interview I did with Joey Kovar from Real World Hollywood, I mean, really sweet, nice kid. It's very sad what happened to that kid. I mean, if you don't have a solid foundation of who you are, and have a perspective on what's important in life, is the entertainment industry, especially reality TV, can really spit you up and chew you out, man. I've seen it with several kids. Like I said, I've interviewed, with my time with reality TV, I was there from 2005 to I think about 2000, and I want to say these are probably about 5 years, 2010.
Okay.
And I was the correspondent, basically the main interviewer. So I was bounced from shows. I've interviewed Evil Dick Donato from Big Brother, the winner of Big Brother 8. I've interviewed Eddie McGee, who was the first winner of Big Brother, who I'm still friends with today. All the Real World kids. I mean, I would have to say I brushed through probably 10 seasons of interviewing them on a regular. So
go back to the young kid you were speaking of before, and you said it was a shame what happened to him. Explain who he was and what actually happened.
Joey was a kid that was a perfect victim. I guess I could say victim for reality TV, because when you meet him, this is a kid who was really drawn by the allure, the illusion of fame, and he wanted to be on TV. He wanted to be famous, and he wanted notoriety, and he wanted. I from when I talked to him, his real passion was he wanted to become a professional wrestler. That's what he wanted to do, and he was built. He had the charisma. He was a jacked, built guy, to good physical condition, but he messed around with drugs.
Now, what was his last name?
Kovar, Kovar. And he unfortunately passed away.
Okay,
but he was popular.
What show was it?
He was on Real World Hollywood.
Okay, good.
And that season really brought the Real World was kind of dying out, and that was a season, ironically, where he was really outrageous on the show, and he kind of brought the ratings back up. And the sad thing about reality TV is, do you think that when he passed away, do you think MTV cared? They probably didn't even send him they probably didn't even send his family and all the reality of it is that they probably didn't even send them any flowers or any kind of, after this kid was exploited by them 100% and brought the ratings up. And that's all they care about. That's all these broadcasting companies, networks care about, is ratings. And they'll do anything to get those ratings. And, people that audition for these shows don't realize that. It's a really dangerous thing. I got out of it because I felt disgusted by it. I mean, I went eventually into more film stuff, which I originally wanted to do. But when I first started, it was a pretty interesting concept. It was groundbreaking TV, but then I saw how they kind of manipulated the storyline. And I mean, I don't blame that. That's what they have to do to get ratings, unfortunately. But not all the kids get affected negatively by it. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is, if it really can snatch you, sweep the rug up from underneath you if you don't have a solid foundation, if you're not humbled and you don't have your feet on the ground. Because what those shows do is it creates it gives someone the feeling of importance, because you have a camera on, you have people that want to come up to you. You know, when those kids went into those clubs, you know, people were flocking to them because they have these big Irreflex MTV cameras on them, and
Right.
you know, they're the center of attention. So by human nature, that's what it creates a illusion of self-importance. And when
Right.
your
Right.
season is done, nobody remembers you. You know,
Right.
the next seven kids come up, and now they're the center of attention. And now you're left to deal with, okay, nobody cares that I'm going to the store. Nobody cares that I'm going here. You know what I mean? At that time. And now, you know, now you have Facebook where you could update whatever the hell you're doing, and you have people that follow you, and it's kind of, you know what I mean? It's kind of a good thing in that case, where it helps people that are dealing with, you know. But when you get attracted to that attention, and you get addicted to that attention on the 24/7 scale, these kids are getting offered everything. And then when that ends, and MTV doesn't care about you anymore, or whatever, or CBS or whatever show you're on doesn't care anymore, and they got a new hot ticket, you know, you're left to, if you don't, like I said, if you don't have a sense of confidence and of what's real inside you, it's gonna create depression, and it's gonna create, you know. And like, you know, in Tommy's instant from the shore is, I mean, thankfully he made it out okay. He's a pretty confident, strong dude mentally, and basically he got pissed more at the manipulation, which I don't blame him.
Right.
And I could tell you, I watching that, having already written in when that show aired, and I saw him on that show, I was like, oh, wait till he sees the playback.
Right.
Like I said it. I remember saying, I said, wait until this kid sees what they do, how they put sequences out of context. They cut, edit. He'll say one thing on the first day, and then he'll see it, you know, 2 hours into the show or whatever, where it was supposedly another day. You know, they that's what they do.
Yeah.
So,
And he
you know,
actually said one specific story where he had a confrontation with a young man in the street, but they got the part where the guy was bothering the cameraman, and what he was doing was protecting the MTV cameraman away from the cameraman, and they cut that whole part out, and it just looked like he was being confrontational on the street.
Yeah.
You know,
because exactly, and you know, they do that stuff all the time. And like when I watch, you know, I could tell, and I was like, okay, this kid's gonna see, they're gonna take things out of context, they're gonna cut and snip and manipulate and make him seem like, you know, he's out of control and wild. And you know, I know that girl, like that girl he met in the club, she didn't want to be on camera. You know what I mean? And that doesn't sell to MTV, so they made it seem like he lost her in the club and he couldn't find her. You know what I mean? Okay. But you could tell, like I could tell that she didn't want to sign a release form, and she didn't want to be on camera because she didn't want her privacy. You know what I mean? Right. Like, so MTV had to come up with something like that, and they do that kind of stuff all the time. I mean, the perfect example I could give you is, I mean, I could get into the Jersey Shore, because that show, you could see the trickery there. I mean, after watching that a couple of seasons, I'm like, I could even pinpoint them out. Okay. You know, like the part where I think it was first season where Ronnie's walking down the boardwalk and that guy is following him, antagonizing him. They paid that guy to do that. Because really? Why would the guy follow him? Yeah, why would the guy was in Sandal? Why would the guy follow him all the way down? If you think about this stuff, I'm gonna say, I mean, you know, like I would say 98% positive that they paid that guy to antagonize Ronnie constantly down the ball court, created a fight. Wow. Guaranteed.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's just, I mean,
you know.
I mean, and I would assume they know who to approach to do that, right? Because you know, you got to be a certain type of person that, yeah,
you know,
no
who
problem.
They approach. And even Ronnie, Sammy, I think, even said it if you notice, she said, "Oh, he's been following us around all night. So what's on TV? They're not stupid. They're smart. They're just like, this guy wants his 15 minutes of time. He wants to be on camera. So let's approach him and say, hey, you know what? We'll give you this. We'll put you on some camera time if you antagonize Ronnie." They didn't want them to fight, but that's what happens. And now it escalated into a fight. But they wanted the drama. They wanted the drama of Ronnie yelling at Sammy. They wanted the drama, and that's what creates the whole storyline, the drama, where he's yelling at Sammy now. You know, you put the pieces together. Yeah, that guy was planted there.
Wow.
And another one is when you could literally see the producers throwing ice at Snooki. They're throwing it at her, and then they said it was the bartender. I think they actually interviewed the bartender. I think they actually even interviewed the bartender. Bartender said, I didn't throw any ice at them. So the producers were throwing it.
Wow.
So yeah. So, I mean, you know, look, if you believe that that show is real, then I could sell you a bridge in Brooklyn. You know,
I mean, I believe that it was manipulated and edited and whatnot, but I didn't think it was to that extreme where they would pay somebody to be confrontational in order to cause drama. Yeah. That's really, really low, shady.
It's not real. It's fabricated. It's not real. Look, if you put, I don't care how interesting kids are, if you put them into a house like Jersey Shore setting, and you didn't fabricate situations, nobody would watch it. It'd be the most boring thing. It'd be them just fucking around, you know, just goofing off, and finally they would unwind. Nobody's on 24/7, and then there would just be dead camera time of them sitting on the couch just doing nothing.
Right.
They can't do that. They have to contrive and fabricate and manipulate situations so that they get the viewers, and that's all they care about. So they'll plant certain things. I'm 100% positive sure that there was no villain in the house. So, you know, Mike's situation's got kind of a big mouth, you know, he's kind of bull. So they said, hey, Mike, you know, you want to be the villain? They'll probably pay you a little bit more. Do you want to cause problems? You know, pick at Ronnie, you know, these are things that are pushed by the producers. And another thing is when they're doing their interviews, I know this for a fact because like I said, I've become friends with a lot of these reality TV people that have been on reality TV, is that they'll ask them the same question over and over again until they get the answer that they want. And then they'll air the answer that they want. Wow. They do that all the time.
Wow.
They'll ask it 10 different ways. So they'll go to Mike, the situation, for example, they'll say, has Ronnie been getting on your nerves lately, Mike? And Mike might be good. No, actually, we're pretty cool now. And then they'll go, are you sure? Maybe because he said this the other day, and that's how they plan it. And, oh, really? You know, it's exploitation. It's exploitation. And then Mike's like, oh, fuck Ronnie. I don't know if I can swear on your show, bro.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, well, all right, fuck Ronnie, you know, and then that creates the conflict. And now they're arguing. They're buddies. Yeah.
Where are these people? I mean, I understand kids being vulnerable, being easily manipulated because they're kids. They're in the late teens, early 20s. But where are their families? Do you know what I mean? Well, I remember as a kid. Now, okay, granted, I had a strong family upbringing, but I remember as a kid, anytime I wanted to get involved with anything, whether it was sports, mixed martial arts, or at the time they called it karate, it was a mixed martial arts, whatever, anything. My parents were like, okay, well, what's it about? Who's doing it? Who's running it? I need to meet them, you know?
But, well, here's the problem, and I'll answer that, is that for one, there at that time, I think the real world, I think, was the youngest you could be is 19, and that's considered a legal adult. So they could do whatever they want, for one. That's number one. And nobody, 19, 20, 21, 22, 24, I think it came up to on the real world. I'm using real world as an example because I worked in that. I wrote the recaps for that show, so I know the most about that.
Okay.
Who's going to refuse that? I mean, when I was 19, who's going to refuse? Okay, you know what? They already know because there's 25 seasons now. By the end of it, there's they're way up there in seasons.
Yeah, right.
I think it might be still going on. I don't watch MTV anymore.
Yeah.
But I had multiple seasons, so by then they know they're going to get fame, they're going to get recognized, they're going to get money, so they're not going to turn this down. So they're going to tell their parents it's a positive thing. I'm going to be on TV. The parents, oh, that's a great opportunity. That's basically what happens. Yeah. But I can tell you something that will probably make you sick to your stomach, John.
Go right ahead, please.
A few years ago, they had a show called, there was a pro skateboarder by the name of Ryan Sheckler. An MTV approached him Actually, it was the guy who does Ridiculousness on MTV who actually recommended him to get. He did 3 seasons on MTV of a show called Life of Ryan.
Okay.
Basically, he was a pro skateboarder at the age of, I think he was an amateur skateboarder by the age of 13, sponsored. Then I think he became pro at about 14. The youngest ever to win the X Games. He was basically a skateboard prodigy. Really talented kid. MTV got a hold of him, snatched his dollar signs. We got to give this kid a reality show. So basically, the reality show was him going around skateboarding. This is way before Jackass, way before all those shows. And they filmed him. I didn't watch the show, but I remember, and I remember saying in my head, I said, "This kid's going to be fucked up after this," and I was 100% accurate, right? 100%. And they showed him partying. They showed him hanging out with girls, partying, basically drinking, doing, living the life. I know for a fact that the producers told his parents, because he was living out, they were filming him in his home with his parents because he was young. They told his parents to say trigger words that's going to trigger him and upset him, his own parents, and they agreed to it because they offered more money. Money is the root of all evil. The love of money is the root of all evil. We'll give you one more. We'll give you another season. We'll give you more money, and this is factual. If you plant words in, if you upset Ryan so that he blows up, so that we get more ratings, my hand to God, don't.
Wow. I just don't, what,
That's your own son.
I just, when where do you draw the line? I can't believe it, because I come from a family where, and it's rare these days, where the men are very strong, right? My brothers, my father, even some cousins and whatnot. I know it's rare these days, but it would be literally get out of my house. Get out of my house.
Yeah, I mean, it's disgusting.
I don't need your money. Get out of my house. And I mean, it blows me away that a parent would do that to their own kid. I mean, I understand.
In his defense, he wasn't a dumb kid, and he had a head on his shoulders, and he made the own decision. He said, "You know what? I'm not going to do this anymore because I feel exploited." And I remember that day when I saw the interview with him, and he actually refused a third season. He didn't want to do the show anymore. So I give him props for that. He's like, "I'm done. I don't care about the money. I don't care about," and that's usually what happens is, these guys, they kind of get burned out from the fame, the drugs, the partying. There's only so much of that you can take, man, until, once you start seeing what's important in life. I mean, like fame is me having been in this industry for a long time. I'm certainly not famous. I could go anywhere I want, thank God, and nobody knows who the fuck I am. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I've worked in this industry for 25 years. I mean, from I worked for Tribeca Film Festival for 4 years. Inner workings of that. I worked for IFC Channel, in New York, Independent Film Channel. And these are great outlets. But I've seen the dark side of celebrity and fame, and I mean, I've certainly been around it a lot of my life. So I mean,
have you ever been in a show or seen a show or whatnot that was actually sincere?
Yeah, I could say the most positive reality TV show, and even that's kind of, and my buddy General Jay, who was on it, might get pissed at me for saying this. What's up, Jay? But he does my tattoos. He does my artwork. He was on Ink Master season 4. But he knows my stance on reality TV. I would say that probably the most positive is because they are talented to begin with, is Ink Masters, because they're talented artists to begin with. So it only showcases their talent. So I support Ink Masters. I do like it, but I can also see the manipulation. I can also see them like, okay, this person said this about you, and they're going to do that on all those shows. So they create the arguments. But overall, it's a positive show because it showcases somebody's talent.
Oh, that's good. Okay, good. So at least there's one that's has a decent standout. A couple of things. there were two very successful porn, PAWN shows. So one was Porn Stars and the other one was, oh God, the one that was in Detroit. I forgot.
Oh yeah, I know what you're. Yeah, I remember
Okay.
those shows. Yeah.
And it seems as if people just walk in and have these obscure, amazing.
No.
So
They're
so
they're
good.
they're
Okay.
they're screened and auditioned before they go into the place. I can tell you that
Really?
100%.
Okay.
100%. Yeah. Like I said, nothing is just pulled off the street. Nothing on TV is real unless it's a documentary,
Right.
a regular documentary or something.
Right.
Nothing is real. I could tell you that having worked in reality TV, nothing is real. When I watch these shows, I can tell you 100% they are auditioned, they are scripted, because the problem is that they're scared to death to put somebody boring on TV. They have to make sure that there's some kind of deal going on, or all those shows like the guy who does the towing, lizard towing or whatever.
Oh
That's
God. Yeah.
that's all staged. That's all
Yeah.
staged. All
Yeah.
staged. Those fights are staged. That's all staged 100%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it getting worse? Because I can only imagine that it's getting worse. I mean, I know reality TV is not as popular as it was, 20,
It died
15
down
years
quite a
ago.
bit.
But
You know
yeah,
why
it
it
definitely
died
did.
down? I don't mean to interrupt you, but you know
No,
why
go
it
ahead.
died down is because people are starting to realize that they're being exploited. They don't want
Right.
to do it anymore.
Right.
At
Right.
one
Right.
time in mid 90s, mid 2000s, at one time when VH1 had their run of Flavor of Love and Rock of Love and multiple spin-offs of that they were your neighbor was on TV at that point. Everybody and their mother was on TV at that point.
Right.
That was like the formula. Take a C-list celebrity or I like Bret Michaels as a person, so I don't want to. I don't want to say washed up rock star, but like an
I
older rock
understand.
star from our era. Poison. Take somebody like that and put them on, and get these girls that, and even all that stuff's fabricated. They tell the girls, do this and do that, and all those shows were fabricated. All those instances, they're all staged. None of it is real.
Okay.
None of it is just filming somebody in their natural elements. They're,
The
you know
one.
what I mean?
All right. The one show I also wanted to ask you about. I had the privilege and honor of interviewing Tom Sizemore, and
Wow.
yeah, and
Yeah.
right now he's actually
Well, that's somebody I respect because he was a heck of an actor.
yeah,
Hell of an actor.
he's in the hospital right now with a so hopefully he comes
I
out
read
okay.
something on that. I know that's
But
terrible.
he had always had bad drug and alcohol problems, like basically his
Yeah.
whole career, and he was on a show called Celebrity Rehab.
Yeah.
And they put him on with his ex-wife, who was a madam. I forgot her name. He was a madam who with prostitutes. I forgot her name.
Heidi Fleiss.
That's it, Heidi Fleiss.
Okay.
And they were divorced, and of course, it was a crazy, toxic relationship. They were divorced, and they were on that show together. I could have experience on that particular show because it does look like they take celebrities that are at their worst, and they're addicted to drugs and they're not in the limelight anymore, and they kind of expose them, knowing that they need the money, they want the attention, they want the limelight again,
Yeah.
and then putting them on with an ex-wife that obviously they did not get along. What was your opinion and what was your experience with that?
What do you mean? Do I think that they really help these people, or is that what you're
Yeah.
asking?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Dr. Drew is an actual real doctor. I mean, he is. He's a
Yeah, right,
certified,
right.
a real doctor. But he they pick him basically is because he has involvement in the entertainment industry. I think he had a show with Adam Carolla called Love Line
That's right.
back in the 90s on MTV, so that's why they get Dr. Drew. But I can say from my I want to say experiences of watching it here and there, or my take on it is I do think that they do try to help those people, to be honest with you.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
But it is not without causing drama or exploiting them. So they do
Right.
love when they fight and argue, and that's why they cast people who are going to butt heads. ex-wives.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why they do
Okay.
that, because they know it's going to cause drama.
Okay. Excuse me. And there have been some reality shows that have stood the test of time. Porn Stars is one of them. But the other one are these housewife shows. My wife, yeah, my
yeah,
wife loves Wives of New Jersey. I mean, she will not miss an episode.
yeah.
Um,
It's
and
very entertaining, man. It's very entertaining. And that's what they do. They hook you right in with that entertainment.
it can't, but I can't, I don't like every season is more drama and more drama and more
Oh
drama.
yeah.
And he said, she said, and um, the thing with the housewives is though, it's just, I mean, the makeup, the fake boobs, the Botox. I mean, it's so overdone. I mean, do they pick these women purposely, or do they kind of create that? And the drama, is this instinctual in these girls, or they pick and probe and do what they can to it?
Well, it's the same. It's the same thing with all these. Is they find women, they screen these women. It is a process. It's not like somebody walks in and gets discovered off the street with these reality shows. They screen, because I've been offered a few myself to be on that never got green lighted. I did make it to a high round of Big Brother, but I didn't make it on the show. But
Mm,
I've had my I had auditioned for some of them, to be honest with you, back in the day. And I actually got offered to be on some of them, but they never got green lighted. And I'm glad they did, because I'm
yeah,
glad I
really.
was never on there now. But uh, where was I going with this?
The house.
Yeah, they screen these people heavily. Yeah,
Okay.
they search these people, and now I think they recruit for reality TV. That I believe they recruit off of Facebook now.
Really?
It's an outlet. Yeah, I think they've been doing that for a couple of years. Facebook accounts and Instagrams. They're like, this person's got 500,000 followers. Seems interesting. Let's get them in for an interview. They seem,
Right, right,
I
right.
mean, we live in a time, John. Now, I mean, I've seen, like, I talk about this all the time. It's a time where, like, people want to be, even still want to be seen, that allure of fame. I need followers. I need, this is
Yes.
stuff that's filling an empty void. You see it constantly, especially with
Yes.
the younger kids. I need
Absolutely.
thousands. Listen, let me tell you something. Now, I'm not saying this to brag, and I don't want to make it about me. And I appreciate you having me as a guest. I appreciate your interest. Um, and like I said, this is not to inflate my head, but like I said, I've worked in this, and I can tell you that. I'll tell you a quick story. I've had my brush with. I was on an MTV show. I'll be honest with you. I was on an
Okay.
MTV show about tattoos years ago. Okay,
Okay.
now this is the power of TV. Okay,
Hmm.
I'm just a regular Joe Schmo from fucking Connecticut, from you know what I mean, like from the
Right.
neighborhood. I'm nobody, you know. Somebody recommended me. I've been working with MTV a little bit, and this is going way back. And they were doing a show about tattoos, and I had a tattoo that had an interesting story. And somebody referred me, and I got an email, and they said, "Would you be interested in being on this MTV documentary?" And I was like, And I was like, all right, I'll play this Andy Warhol. I'll be on TV. I'll play this game. So it's a documentary, cool. But again, I was exploited. I was manipulated. I was going to be like the punk rock dude, because I had like tattoos and shit all over
Right.
me. I still do. I got Misfits tattoo. I'm into punk music. I'm like a
Okay.
punk rock dude type. All right. So I was filling that category, and that's what they do with everything on MTV. Is they fill these roles. This is the smart kid. This is the, you know what I mean. This is the,
Mm.
you know
Okay.
fashion sense person. This is the smart girl, the nerd. They do that all the time.
Okay.
Everything. Um. So I knew that. I kind of knew that. So I said, all right, I'll do it. The producers get a hold of me, and so I do it. And for some reason, I had the most airtime on the documentary. I was involved with, I think, like 4 segments of it. And then they had other people on there too that they casted. But for some reason, my story was the most interesting. I don't even remember what it was about. But it was me basically talking about my tattoo.
Hmm.
I think it was similar to True Life, where they had like story segments, but it wasn't a True Life episode, but the show was very similar to that.
Okay.
But it was all about tattoos. So I do it. It airs. I come home. Nobody here in Connecticut, New Haven cares. They say, "Oh, I saw you on TV, Neal." They knew I was going in that industry anyways. And
right.
I kind of got a couple of perks after it aired. I didn't have to pay to get into nightclubs in my local downtown New Haven. They would let me skip the line because I was on TV. That's just the thing is, once you're on TV, it's just the silliest thing, John. It's just absolutely ridiculous. So I mean, I was like, all right, these people are going to do this fine. I'll take advantage of it.
Right.
But what really was crazy is that I had a good amount of time on there. But still, this was years later. After years later, I remember I was in, I think maybe Stafford Springs Mall or something here, a big, huge mall. And I went into Gap for, I think I was looking at something, a V-neck, a sweater or something at Gap. I was shopping around. And
right.
This is years after I'd done this show, years.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw the girl, the checkout girl was staring at me. And
okay.
I'm not a lady killer, man. I do it right. But
join the club.
This girl was staring at me, and I'm like, there's got to be something. I'm like, this is And she was a cute little girl.
Right.
She had some tattoos on her, and excessively. I noticed she was a little bit longer than I'm not that good looking. I don't know what the hell this girl's like. And then she starts following me. She starts following me around the store. I sort of starts following me around close. So finally I said, and not like in a dick manner, but I was like, I turned around. I said, hey, I said hi to her. I said, I knew she worked there. She was younger than me. She said, I said, is there something I could, do I know you from somewhere? Something like that, to break, because she goes, she looks at me, she goes, do you still have the tattoo? No, I forgot that I did that show.
Right.
But this was years later. I'm like, how the
right.
hell does this girl? And then it clicked in my head. I'm like, no fucking way. How does this girl fucking remember? This was years ago. And people remember shit like that. It's like Tommy.
Yeah.
People remember him from that, and he had a hell of a lot more airtime than I did. And the whole show was about him.
Right.
But like, this was like, and I'm like, she's like, yeah. And she's like, yeah, weren't you on MTV talking about your tattoo? Do you still have the tattoo? I'm like, and she's asking me hundreds of questions. I don't know. Question. How'd you get on the show? They just you could see people perk up. They get so excited about seeing somebody that was on TV. I mean, it's like the power of TV is it's insane. It's just insane.
So translate that. So you got that much, right? You got that much fame.
A little snippet.
Right.
Not even, like I got recognized from something I did. I got noticed. It's not even really fame. I don't know how the hell this girl remembered, because like I said, it was years later. I forgot I'd even done it.
Right.
But like my point to you, my point to your audience is that people in their collective, if they're in the pub, they don't forget that stuff.
Right.
It stays in their collective. So she saw my face. I basically looked the same as when I did it. So I'll give her that much credit. I looked the same. So she probably saw me, and it triggered that show in her head, and was like, "Oh, I think that's the guy." Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, so imagine what these real worlders go through, where it's aired.
That I was going to say
24/7. Like, they got to be stopped everywhere. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's insane.
I was going to say that to to somebody that skyrocketed. The sense of entitlement and delusion that you have because you don't have to pay for anything. You don't have to wait on lines, like you said. Right.
Now,
right,
me,
right.
I'm a really grounded person. I could care less about fame, to be honest with you. I could tell you stories of other people, but like, I just think it's funny. I just thought it funny that the girl recognized me. I was like, I can't believe. I even said to her, I said, I can't believe you remember that. I forgot I even did that. That was years ago. She goes, oh yeah, I love that. I love that documentary they did. She was in, I'll give her, she was into tattoos and stuff. So it might have been like, because nobody else was recognizing me. You know what I mean? So I'll give her that kind of, but still, it was one show that I did years, one thing, like where I had
10 years prior. Yeah.
And this girl remembered it. It baffled my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I could not believe it. I actually went home and told my mother. And she was like, well, that's some, if that's what TV does.
Yeah,
That,
yeah, it really does.
So I can imagine what Tommy must went through.
But not all. I mean, I mean,
Wow.
yeah. Tommy has gone through a lot. He had a wife that passed,
Crazy.
and
Yeah.
he's had his own demons to deal with. When he's a
Probably
single.
getting recognized everywhere. Everywhere from
Yeah. And but the thing is, he's he turned down other roles because he didn't want to do it anymore. And then he went back to work in construction, and he would be noticed while he was on a construction, stuff like that, right? But imagine what like a Hollywood superstar. Wait, you
Well,
literally,
here's the difference.
wait,
Here's
you
the difference.
literally like can't leave the
Oh yeah,
house.
yeah. But that I always tell people that's a talent. It comes with the you have a craft. You're an actor. You're going
I
to get
got what you're
you know what I
saying.
mean? It's
Yes,
different,
yes,
and it
yes.
keeps you more grounded somehow.
I
But
see.
what reality TV does is it takes somebody regularly that auditions for it. They're not off the street, but they audition. They want to be on TV, but they're not a actor. They're not you know what I mean? They're just a college kid.
Right.
They have their friends. So they don't know, they could go anywhere. So take that. And now once you're on the show, once you come off, you're getting people, they weren't getting stormed like the Beatles or anything, but they were certainly getting recognized. Cause like I said,
Right.
I did a one documentary on MTV fucking years ago. And this girl from then spotted me and recognized me. And so when they're coming off there, they're definitely getting stopped somewhere. Like, hey, you're from the real world, like must be the more prominent ones. And then when that ends, you're like, if you don't, like I said, if you don't have that strong, humbled sense of like, okay, this is not real. This is this is just these people just like me because I was on. If you, it creates that sense of self-importance where like, hey, I'm cooler than these kids are. If you believe these kids are cooler than you, then you're buying into the illusion.
Right.
They're just on TV. They're filmed and they're it. Man, I mean, I could get in deep into it. It's just.
So I got two more questions actually, and then
Yeah.
I've taken up a lot of your time, but the two questions is when reality TV started, drifting, when it started dropping, basically all of TV is dropping because of social media, and everybody watches YouTube and streamlines, and I mean streaming channels and so on and so forth, and you go down the list, right? Did they push the envelope even harder to try to catch up?
You mean like did they go to more extremes?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean you could see that turn from like, and I hate to keep using Real World as an example, but like I said, I wrote recaps for that show for fucking years, so that's most of. You could see the turn from the Real World. It was like even like up to New Orleans 2000, they were kind of still got like they still got kind of like strong-minded. They were still talking about politics and kind of having debates and trying to be cultural and and but as soon as Vegas hit, they realized, okay, we gotta, if we throw sex into it and we throw like allow them to fight each other a little bit, the ratings are gonna go through the roof.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's what they realized, and they were like, cha-ching. So let's give them a jacuzzi. Let's put them in Las Vegas, the center of drugs and partying. And when Real World Las Vegas here, that was the #1 rated. I mean, that show, the first one was.
That's right. Oh, that's right.
Skyrocketing.
What was the hotel they filmed it in?
The big one, like the main one.
I forgot. But I remember that. Yeah, absolutely. At the time, it was the main hotel casino, and I think they had like the roof, the entire floor, or something.
Oh yeah. But it changed drastically, the format. They wanted them to just fight and party, and they weren't even talking about race or drug or anything, politics. They just were hard down to party, and that was it. And then Jersey Shore came years later, so they figured fighting and sex is going to sell.
Right, exactly. Yeah, which it does, unfortunately. And I see it myself. On what YouTubers and other podcasters. I don't know I don't pride myself on going after drama or anything like that. I usually like to do interesting interviews. And there are podcasters that
Yeah, I
just
would say your format is more of an informative podcast, which is probably what I would do about film. You know, I mean, you're not slinging the dirt here.
Right. But the ones that are, it's unbelievable. I mean, and it's in every genre. It's in every genre. I mean, even in the bodybuilding, there is a very popular YouTuber that all he does is about gossip and drama behind the scenes, and who hitting who and who's doing this and so on and so forth. And it sells like nobody's business. You know, he's the only one that's doing it, which is smart on his end. And because most of the bodybuilding podcast is just basically talking about actual bodybuilding. And
unfortunately, people love to eat that stuff up. It's just a side of nature. It's like when you're driving down the street and you see an accident, you got to look.
Right.
You know, it's human nature. You got to look and see if somebody's hurt or, you know, I mean, it's just human nature. And I mean, and that, unfortunately, that's what sells. And that's basically what reality TV is. And gossip YouTube channels is it's that accident on the side of the road, man, that unearths people's interest. You know what I mean? The dark side of human nature. And that's basically, and what they do is they prey on people that want that fame, that want that recognition. They want that notoriety. They want to be known. So they don't care they're getting exploited, or they find out afterwards and they're like, oh, Godsmacked. Like, what did I get myself into? How do I deal with this now? Some of those kids, man, I'll tell you, they went through some dark depression after having that heightened sense of self-importance to then having it swept from underneath you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh man,
what was some of the worst? Okay, good. Yeah, we're speaking about him.
I mean, I could tell. I interviewed that kid for a good. He actually wanted to talk to me a little bit afterwards too. I felt bad for him, and I could honestly say I interviewed him at a nightclub. It was my last interview. I was actually getting away from the magazine, and they called me. I was the Connecticut, New York correspondent, because a lot of those kids would come to clubs, and we would get the interviews there. So they were like, Joey Kovar's coming from. He's going to be down in Connecticut. Would you do an interview with him? And I would record the interviews, and then they would do print. They would do the print spreads in the magazine.
Okay.
And I could see it in his eyes. I could see the beaten downness of the show. You know, like it just took a toll on the kid. I mean, they chewed that kid up and spit him out, man. I mean, if you want, you can look it up afterwards. Look at it. He was on Real World Hollywood, and he, you know, unfortunately died. But you know, I mean, they made him look
how did he pass?
Like
how did he pass?
Drugs.
Oh, he overdosed.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay.
Unfortunately, he couldn't beat those battles. But I can tell you, when I interviewed him, he was the sweetest kid, and he was not drinking that night. He had a bottle of water. I was with him for most of the night, and he was completely, you know, he had a bottle of water. He was like, you know, I'm drinking water. He had issues with alcohol. You know, he was in bad shape.
He was trying. He was trying.
He was trying. Yeah, he was absolutely trying. You know, and I felt bad for him. And he even talked to me. He said, yeah, man. I mean, like, they just manipulated things so bad when I was on there. And I was like, yeah, I know. You know, I mean,
do you remember anything specific that he said that stood out in your mind about the actual manipulation of the show? What they did to him?
Well, I remember him saying. And he died a little bit after the interview too, so it kind of hit me kind of hard. I mean, because he just was a sweet kid, man. He's a lot younger than me, but you know, I mean, I felt bad for him because I know what they did to him. He said, I remember him saying, you know, my whole life, I always wanted, you know, fame, but now I had a little taste of it, and he's like, this stuff is not real, and I'm like. Yeah, man. I mean, like, you know, your family, your foundation, and your friends that like you for who you are is what's real, man. That's what I remember telling him, and he's like, "You're absolutely right, man." He's like, "Those kids, I don't even talk to them really anymore. You know, my cast members. You know, it's a completely fake, you know, fabricated environment. It's a forced environment." Right. And I'm like, yeah. We're forced to communicate with each other, and that's what creates drama. And,
you think it's gotten worse with social media, or you think it's not as bad?
I don't think social media is a healthy thing. I mean, there's some positives to it, but if you're asking me my opinion, I think it's the next step of evolution. Well, I want to say de-evolution.
Yeah,
of reality TV.
I agree.
It's causing heightened feelings of self-importance with
That's
people.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
Instagram, you know, you got 50 million models on there, you know, airbrushing. And I know a lot of I know a lot of girls being around. I've been around that have been. I've been invited to Maxim parties. I mean, like I said, I don't want to brag to your viewership, but they're probably gonna be like, "Who's this braggadocious, arrogant prick you got on their show here?"
If
But
that's the case,
like,
then but what if that's those are the things that you did, and those are the things that you did, you know, it is what it is.
I have been, like I said, I've been in an industry. I'm older now. I'm died down, John. I don't even want to podcast anymore. I don't want nothing to do. I live a very quiet life. I basically do my film premieres. I write my film reviews, and I got my nice little niche. But when I was in the scene, when I was going out in my 20s, never got involved with drugs because my family. I mean, I come from a strong family. We don't
Right.
fuck with that. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Hardly ever drank, but I'd go out and about. I'd bring my buddy John, who was really into it, and now he's modeling out in LA. He's done good for himself. Um, but he was all excited about that stuff. So I brought him along for the ride. He was always appreciative. And we'd go to like Maxim magazine parties in New York, premieres, we'd go to film premieres. Because I was always on the list because I was on MTV's list. I was on
Right.
MTV's list. I was always on the list. I was always in the scene. And I met girls that would take you out in the back and give you, you know what, for a fucking. I mean, it's just, that it looks like it's exciting and alluring, but it's a seedy business, man. It is just, it's not healthy for people, man.
No, I
wouldn't
agree. I don't
recommend
think it's healthy
somebody.
either. And I think attention as an addiction is not spoken enough. I think it is
It's a
as
drug.
bad as any other addiction. Yeah. And it's worse for girls because guys flew, attractive women that put their stuff out there on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, and it's the
Yeah.
DMs and the likes and the comments and so on and so forth. And you're right, it creates an inflated, right? I got one more question. I'm going to let you go, Neal. Are there other people like you that worked behind the scenes or even worked in the scenes and said, like, this, I can't do this anymore. This is toxic. This is terrible. What they're doing is horrible. I have to get out.
Oh yeah. I mean, I knew, other people that have seen the dark turn and the evil workings of that machine. Absolutely. I mean, and there's other people that, man, they wanted to stay in it. But I mean, I can leave you with this, is that I wouldn't recommend anybody to do reality TV unless you're going to take it as a goof and you have an extremely strong foundation underneath you and a solid sense of who you are before you get on the show, and after, don't even mess with it.
Right.
I mean, because it's, like I said, it's going to damage. It's just, and like I said, even with the Instagram, with the 50 million followers. Look, I've been on TV. I've been around famous people. I've been around TV, and I don't want the followers. I literally, John, have, I think, and that's high for me. I think I literally have like maybe 400 followers on Instagram.
Yeah, I don't have many
nothing.
either, to be honest with you.
And I'm happy with that. I don't want to be an influencer. I've been offered, I'll be honest, I've been offered to be ambassadors to things for years now. Like, and I turn them all down. I'm like, look, I can't help your company out, man. They see my stuff, my content.
Yeah, to see your resume. Yeah, right.
So they're like, this guy, he's done some stuff, but I'm not. Nobody knows who the fuck I am. I have limited followers. I'm not going to do anything for your company, man. I'm a nobody.
Right.
I'm not going to. You want to get the person that's got the YouTube channel. They got the 50 million, 100,000 followers that are going to promote the shit out of your clothing line or whatever, and that's what's going to help you, not me. I write film reviews. I go to film stuff. If it's not involved with film, most of the time, excuse me, I don't do it. You know, it's just I can't be an ambassador for your company because I'm not an influencer. I'm
Right.
not an influencer by any means.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I would love to have you on about films, because the change from our generation to today's films is night and day.
Oh yeah, especially in the horror genre. I'm a horror guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's night and day.
Well, I think it's films in general. I mean, but it is, movies are horrible, just awful.
Well,
just horrible, you know. But
and I could give you a lot of reasons on that too. That'd be for another show, bro. But,
yeah,
I mean,
I'd love to have you on and talk about why the movie industry is the way it is, and why it changed so drastically from the 90s. Because in the 90s into the early 2000s, you had really great films, great directors, great writers.
I always tell people 90s is the resurgence of 70s cinema, which
that's 100%. I say it all the time. 100%. The 80s kind of went to the action. Yeah, the 80s went to the action thing, and the 90s it kind of like, that's when you had Tarantino and you had Spike
Kevin
Lee,
Smith, Todd Solondz, all those kind of guys, Neil LaBue, all those guys making the early 90s was the indie boom, film boom. That's my era.
Right. Absolutely. Me too. Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely have you on for that. That'll be a great show. We'll definitely have you on again. Neal, listen,
and I can tell you this, you'll never find a more Tarantino fanatic than me.
Oh, all right, good. Yeah, well, I'd love to. That will. You know what? We're gonna have you back. We're gonna have you do that on films, because I'm a big movie buff, and that is great. And
that's my jam.
If you actually watch the interview with Tom Sizemore that I did, we talk about that. We talk about why it's changed so much. Yeah, I don't know.
That's pretty awesome that you got to interview him, because I'm a big fan of his. He's a great actor.
Oh, it was fantastic. Yeah, so do I. He was fantastic. He was just fantastic, and but we'll definitely talk more. Neal, thank you. Much respect.
Yeah,
much
absolutely.
love.
No problem,
always.
And
I truly appreciate it.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. No, I haven't talked about reality TV in a long time, so it's kind of the interest is not shooting at me so often. I'm mostly talking about films. So,
okay. Well, I want you back to talk about films.
If you ever talk to Tommy again, tell him I take my hats off to him for being a reality TV survivor.
Yeah, we still keep in touch.
Seems to be doing good.
Yeah, we still keep in touch. I'll send him this when it comes out. We still keep in touch. He's a good dude, man. He really is. We've hung out a couple of times. He's a good guy.
You could tell he got taken for a ride with that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but the way you explain it, and now it makes all sense. All the pieces came together. Neal, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate everything.
Brother. Yeah, absolutely.
We'll be in touch. Thank you.
Yep.
Have a good one.